100 years of history. A cast of millions. Rare archival footage offers a range of perspectives on modern-day human rights and freedoms. This is a century on film. In a democratic post-war Germany, how did notorious dictator Adolf Hitler rise to power? A kindly man relaxes with children. His unaffected smile belies a terrible legacy. His mistress is behind the camera. She playfully mimics his body language. Eva Braun is 23 years Hitler's junior. She will ultimately commit suicide with him. This footage was found among her personal effects. Whenever the Fuhrer stays at his villa in the Bavarian Alps, Eva is with him. Even in the midst of war, life in the mountains is carefree and peaceful. A 1,000 miles away in the steppes of Russia, millions of German soldiers are fighting for their lives. Countless civilians also perish senselessly. The German public is told that the Fuhrer has no private life. Day and night he sacrifices himself for the people. Around this time, millions of Jews are being sent to concentration camps in and around Germany and Eastern Europe.
Der Aufrichtung einer neuen großen Volksgemeinschaft, Arbeiter, Bauer, intellektuelle, geistige Arbeiter, sie heil!
Why did ordinary citizens embrace totalitarian ideas? Why did other nations fail to act before it was too late? America's leading industrialist was a committed anti-Semite. His ideas exerted a strong influence on Hitler. The Queen of French fashion acted as an agent for the German army. The first man to fly solo across the Atlantic believed an alliance with Hitler would guarantee world peace.
In the future, we may have to deal with a Europe dominated by Germany.
Millions around the world welcomed his rise to power.
The newspapers say that you are Mr. Hitler's best lady friend. Is there any truth in that?
Oh, that is only a newspaper story. It is not true.
But when the monster's true face was revealed, it was too late to stop him. The Second World War was like no other conflict in history. It claimed the lives of an estimated 50 to 60 million people. More than 50 nations were sucked into the struggle. The conflagration spread across the globe. Jet fighters, ballistic missiles, nuclear bombs, the war ushered in new weapons of frightening destructiveness. It was also a struggle for people's hearts and minds. Democracy, communism, fascism. Competing political philosophies unleashed a maelstrom of prejudice and hatred. 70% of the dead in World War II were civilians. For the first time, the number of innocent victims surpassed that of soldiers. And at the eye of the storm stood one man, Adolf Hitler.
Eigene Arbeit, eigenen Fleiß, eigenen Gottheit, eigenen Gott, eigene Herrlichkeit.
Landsberg prison on the outskirts of Munich. While imprisoned here for treason, Hitler first commits his totalitarian vision to paper. In 1923, Hitler leads the tiny National Socialist German Workers' Party in an attempted coup in Munich. He is 34 years old. After its defeat in the First World War, Germany's economy collapsed under the burden of its massive reparation obligations. The population was crushed under astronomical rates of inflation. In prison, Hitler received support from an influential German family. The Wagners are descendants of celebrated composer Richard Wagner. Winifred Wagner, the English-born wife of Richard Wagner's son, attends one of Hitler's early speeches and quickly becomes a convert to National Socialism.
Man muss sich vorstellen, in welch einem fürchterlichen Elend sich im Jahr, also nach dem Ersten Weltkrieg, während der ganzen Inflation, das ganze Volk stand. Dieser damals doch also völlig unbekannte Hitler auftrat und uns quasi versprach, durch eine neue Volksgemeinschaft den Versuch zu machen, uns zu retten, dass man da in jeder Hinsicht sich ihm anzuschließen bereit war.
During a concert tour of the United States, she invites a well-known industrialist to support Hitler's movement. Henry Ford is the founder of Ford Motor Company. Ford is thought to have provided the Nazis with clandestine financial backing. Ford himself is an active anti-Semite. Anti-Jewish sentiment was widespread in America during the years leading up to the war. Many believed that the flood of Jewish refugees from Europe had caused large numbers of native-born Americans to lose their jobs. Ford publishes a newspaper that serves as a platform for anti-Semitic ideas. The Jews are said to control the global financial system. The epidemic of communist agitation is also laid at their feet. Ford's influence plays a critical role in legitimizing this bigotry. Books with Ford's name on them are read avidly by people around the world.
Somebody has to be blamed for our troubles. Judaism means the rule of gold. We Germans are land-minded, not money-minded. I regard Henry Ford as my inspiration.
Hitler completes My Struggle during his year of confinement. He argues that Germany faces two dangerous enemies, world communism and the Jews. In October 1929, stock prices plunge on Wall Street. Like dominoes, one national economy after another falls before the Great Depression. Germany's economy was just beginning to recover from hyperinflation. Now it is devastated for a second time.
Alle für Löhne, Gehälter und so weiter, Krisenunterstützung, das alles. Nein, Privatgelder gibt es nicht.
The unemployment rate tops 30%. Germany's turmoil presents Hitler with a priceless opportunity. He promises to deliver the German people from the chaos of Weimar democracy to a stronger, more effective form of government: fascism.
Hitler promised to find work for 6 million unemployed Germans, and we believed him. We didn't care if our parents were against the Nazis.
The National Socialists score victory after victory in elections for the Reichstag, Germany's Diet or Parliament.
Ich habe mir ein Ziel gesteckt, nämlich die 30 Parteien aus Deutschland hinauszufegen. Und wir wollen nicht sein eine Vertretung eines Berufs, eines Landes, eines Standes, einer Konfession oder eines Landes.
In Italy, fascism is already well established. As head of the National Fascist Party, Mussolini promises to save the nation with a controlled economy and territorial expansion.
Al popolo italiano, perché se ne ricordi in ogni tempo e in ogni circostanza di pace o di guerra.
But one major power is growing by leaps and bounds. The Soviet Union's economy is insulated from the effects of Wall Street's collapse. Planned development of heavy industry and collective agriculture are delivering steady economic growth.
Наш рабочий класс, наши крестьянство, нашу трудовую интеллигенцию и мобилизуем на новую борьбу для достижения новых побед коммунизма.
Disillusionment with capitalism begins to spread around the world. With financial support from Moscow, Germany's Communist Party also scores major electoral gains. Bloody street fighting rages all across Germany as the Nazis battle the communists. Fanatical hatred on both sides stokes the violence.
For many, the choice between Bolshevism and fascism is rather like a choice between Satan and Beelzebub. Hitler's movement has been lifted to victory by 17 million desperate people.
In the national elections of 1932, the Nazis double their representation in parliament. In a single stroke, they become Germany's largest political party. In January 1933, Hitler is appointed Chancellor. His cabinet is a coalition with other conservative parties. Hitler's political partners dismiss him as an upstart. They hope to use the National Socialists' popularity to shore up the conservative forces and beat back Germany's leftist parties.
We have hired him for our act. In 2 months' time, we'll have pushed Hitler so far into the corner, he'll be squeaking.
But 4 weeks later, everything changes. Germany's parliament, the Reichstag, goes up in flames. Hitler declares that the fire is part of a communist conspiracy to seize power. He exploits the mood of crisis to ban the Communist Party and arrest its members. When Parliament reconvenes in a Berlin opera house, Hitler is ready with emergency legislation. The Enabling Act. The act would give Hitler the right to bypass the Reichstag and promulgate laws directly. In effect, the Nazis intend to force parliamentary democracy to commit suicide.
Aus einem Gewaltfrieden kommt kein Segen, im Innern erst recht nicht. Ich will auch gar nicht, dass Sie dafür stimmen. Deutschland soll frei werden, aber nicht noch ich.
Without a majority, the National Socialists cannot simply impose their will on Parliament. Hitler's solution is to unleash intimidation and violence. He surrounds Parliament with paramilitary troops and draws the opposition to his side with skillful political maneuvering. Ultimately, Hitler bypasses the Social Democrats and passes the Enabling Act with support from the other political parties. He uses democratic institutions to destroy democracy. 4 months later, the Nazis outlaw all competing political parties. The laws introduced by the cabinet, in other words, by Hitler himself, become the law of the land. Most Germans welcome the birth of the National Socialist state. Germany's Autobahn. This is one of the world's oldest high-speed national road networks. Hitler ordered its construction to put unemployed Germans to work. This groundbreaking ceremony was filmed in 1933. Soon after he takes power, Hitler announces plans for a 7,000-kilometer highway system.
Erst in Jahrzehnten wird man dann den Verkehr als abhängig sehen von diesen neuen großen Verkehrsstraßen. Deutsche Arbeiter, an das Werk!
Construction equipment is used sparingly to put the greatest number of people to work. Hitler gives people new hope for the future. In 1933, cars are a symbol of luxury beyond the reach of the average German. The Fuhrer promises his people a car that anyone can afford. This design study for the people's car is thought to have been sketched by Hitler himself. To realize his vision, Hitler turns to a brilliant automotive engineer, Ferdinand Porsche, who will achieve post-war fame as a sports car maker. A state-run company is created to manufacture the new vehicle, with production facilities on a par with those of the Ford Motor Company. The new company is named Volkswagen. Hitler also works to bring his people a better way of life. He calls for German companies to implement a 5-day, 40-hour work week and promotes what is known today as work sharing. He encourages large enterprises to provide their workers with cafeterias. New health and welfare facilities are introduced. Five years after Hitler takes power, industrial output has doubled. Tax revenues have tripled. National Socialist economic policy is ahead of its time. Public works spending propels the economy out of its slump. The country is back on track.
In 4 Monaten haben wir 1,2 Millionen beseitigt. Wir werden weiter angreifen und nicht rasten, bis wir das Ziel erreicht haben.
Hitler ensures that the weaker members of society are not forgotten. He creates a sense of community, embracing all true Germans, and promotes a spirit of mutual support and assistance. In the national referendum of 1934, Hitler is supported by nearly 90% of the voters.
The future seemed so bright then. No one wanted to distance himself or herself from the Nazis. Everyone had a livelihood. Everyone had work. Everyone was satisfied. We embraced National Socialism without reservations.
Hitler also seeks to foster a purely German aesthetic. Superior German art would rekindle national pride. This rare colour footage captures one of the annual exhibitions of German art in Munich. The radiant colour and splendour of traditional German designs is put on show for all to see. September 1935. Their opponents vanquished, Hitler and the Nazis enjoy near unconditional support from the populace. At the party rally in Nuremberg, Hitler promulgates a new set of laws. The Nuremberg laws strip Germany's Jews of their rights as citizens and prohibit marriage between Jews and non-Jews. Hitler considers the Jews responsible for Germany's defeat in war and the hard years that followed.
Das erste und zweite Gesetz tragen eine Dankeschuld an die Bewegung ab, unter deren Symbol Deutschland die Freiheit zurückgewonnen hat.
The new laws also deprive Jews of their right to vote. The expulsion of Jews from public life is already well underway. Germans are forbidden to patronize businesses owned by Jews. At first, Nazi anti-Semitism is received by many with puzzlement and doubt. But Hitler's economic miracle banishes many doubts, and participation in anti-Semitic campaigns rises. Books deemed to be un-German are consigned to the flames.
Der zweite Haufen auf dem Opernplatz in Berlin. Deutsche Männer und Frauen. Das Zeitalter eines überspitzten jüdischen Intellektualismus ist nun zu Ende.
Modern art is branded a threat to German culture. An exhibition of degenerate art is held in Munich as a counterpoint to German art exhibitions. These works, acquired by German museums before Hitler's rise, include pieces by some of the world's most famous modern artists. Acquisition prices are boldly displayed to highlight the waste of taxpayer money by previous governments.
Lieber Herr Reichsbischof, im Namen
The Christian clergy also collaborates with the Nazis.
danke ich Ihnen für Ihre Gemeinschaftstat, für die Eingliederung der evangelischen Jugend in die
Ich bin gewiss, dass auch die Überführung der evangelischen Jugend in die Hitlerjugend von demselben Geist getragen werden wird. Unsere Kirche ersegne unser heißgeliebtes deutsches Vaterland.
Theologian Martin Niemöller is one cleric who actively resists the regime. After the war, his words form the base for a poem that captures the dilemma faced by those who compromised with the Nazis.
First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me.
Having captured the support of the people by transforming Germany, Hitler begins to show his true colors. He breaches the arms limitations imposed on Germany after the defeat of 1918 and embarks on a program of rearmament. Lured by the promise of profits in Germany's growing economy, major American corporations play a key behind-the-scenes role in Hitler's military build-up. Other European powers see Hitler's Germany as a useful bulwark against communism. Now, the monster they helped create is about to plunge the world into the abyss.